Let's get into this. This is going to be a good one. Coronavirus and your retirement.
Yes. So the coronavirus is in all the headlines right now. So what are your thoughts on that, Jason?
Well, first of all, I want to be respectful because this can be kind of scary, and so I don't want to make it sound like I think it's ridiculous, even though a portion of me thinks seems like it's getting overblown. But the reality is the stock market on Friday, February 21st, was at 29,146. At one point, it dropped down to 26,164. So that's 10% drop in a matter of days. And so that's, even though the number of people dying from this thing is relatively low compared to other outbreaks and epidemics, it's still the impact that it's having on people's psychology is real, and the impact that it's having on the economy is real. And we saw the market running really hot, the hottest bull market in the history of the stock market. We've been talking about the fact that this thing's going to slow down eventually. We didn't know what the event was going to be that brought the slowdown. One of the things I want our listeners thinking about is, is this something where we're worried that the long-term effects of the market, so as we think out a year, 2 years, 5 years, are we really worried that this is going to affect the market over that time period? Or are we just concerned about what's going to happen over the next couple of months? Because good investors don't invest their money based on the latest headline. But we've got to get into this a little bit more. We've got to be thinking about how it's going to affect people's retirement and what they should be doing about it.
All right, Jason. So how serious do you think this is?
Right. So I'm not a health expert, but here's what I've read so far. And we'll link to all of these articles in the show notes, so if other people want to revisit these. But let's see. On February 26, MarketWatch posted an article that said there were 72,000 confirmed cases worldwide. The mortality rate is 2.3%. No deaths occurred in those aged 9 years and younger. So that kind of makes me feel good as a dad, knowing that the young little kids aren't going to haven't been impacted negatively by this so far. And then it said, but for people aged 70 to 79, the fatality rate was as high as 8%, and those 80 and older had a mortality rate of 14.8%. But the people that had severe acute respiratory, the article said that the mortality rate for men was about 2.8% and 1.7% for women. And so, that's a scary thing. You turn on the headlines and you see people running around in white suits covered from head to toe, and they've got masks over their face. And, it can be really alarming. But one of the things that it did bring to my attention was that the people that are most susceptible to this are the older part of the demographic, which we serve a lot of folks that are retired in that demographic. But it's also people that have compromised health already. And so I think it's just good to understand because fear can become overwhelming, and it can just capture all of our thoughts. So we really want to think about who is this really affecting, and ask yourself, are you one of these people? And if you are, then you probably should be taking precautions. I mean, if you're older and you have some other health issues, then it's good maybe to be a little bit more cautious.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that, Jason. So what should people be doing with their investments right now?
Yeah, good one. So one of the things I wanted to look at was the coronavirus compared to some of these other things, Emilia. And so, for example, there was the fatality rate appears to be a fraction of the severe acute respiratory system, SARS, which was 9.6%, or MERS, the Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, which was 34.4%. I think what has people so concerned is how fast this new coronavirus spreads from person to person. But from a fatality standpoint, the numbers really, anytime anybody dies, it's not a good thing. But as we think about this big picture, what did they say? 72,000. Well, at the time this was written, about 80,000 people had been infected, and less than 3,000 people had died from this virus. But more importantly, what we want to be talking about, what we want to be thinking about, is how investments have performed as relative to some of these epidemics, some of these outbreaks, some of these things that have happened in the past. And so Charles Schwab has a great article that we'll link to in the show notes that talks about how the market has performed after past epidemics. But here's just a summary of what they said. While it's impossible to predict the extent a virus can spread and have greater consequences than past epidemics, history indicates that the global economy and markets have been relatively immune to the effects of past epidemics. And the neat thing about this research article is that it looks back historically and it says what happened to the market 1 month after something like SARS or the pneumonic plague or the Asian flu or the swine flu or MERS or Ebola or Zika or a measles outbreak. So what happened 1 month after those events? What happened 3 months after? And what happened 6 months after? And even though, history is no guarantee of past performance is no guarantee of future results, what we know is that bad things have happened in the past, and the market seems pretty resilient. Yes, the economy is slowing down. Everybody's talking about that. And yes, the market's been running hot for a long time. The question has to become, what are we going to do from a retirement planning standpoint for people that are just getting ready to retire? Should they be selling everything, going to cash? Should they be buying gold? Should they be buying property up in the hills, like with that movie Red Dawn, where the kids should we be stocking up on the masks at Walmart or the So that we do need to talk about this from the standpoint of retirement planning. But here's what I know, Emilia, is anytime people are making emotional decisions, that's usually wrong decisions when it comes to your investments and your money. So what we want people to do is we want them to step back, we want them to calm down, and we want them to try to think critically about this issue and not make emotional decisions, which is very hard to do because when you're just on the cusp of retirement, the last thing you want to do is see a big chunk of your money taken away right at the time you're about to retire.
Yeah. All right, Jason. So before we move forward, maybe lighten the mood a little bit, we have some new information that we wanted to share with our listeners today regarding your retirement budget calculator. So
yes.
I understand there's some new updates you'd like to share with us.
Yeah, so we just launched a bunch of new updates just yesterday. We emailed all of our customers of the retirement budget calculator, but we have some new features in there for helping people understand their estimated effective tax rate. We have added some graphs to make the numbers just a little bit more visually appealing. And we've given people more control over deductions and taxes and just given a little bit more granularity there. And it's really exciting because every time we make an update, people that are already customers of the retirement budget calculator, they just automatically have access to it. So it's always fun for me when we get to roll out the next thing. The other thing that we did with Retirement Budget Calculator I'm excited about is we decided to go ahead and make it a monthly subscription. So now people don't have to commit to it for an entire year. They can sign up for a month and they can cancel at any time. So if they decide that they don't like it, then they can cancel it. And the price is $7.95 per month. Cancel at any time. And then the last thing I wanted to, and this is what I'm really excited about, and I should probably tell a little bit of the backstory here. So it was over 10 years ago that I started Sound Retirement Radio. And it started as a result of the local radio host inviting me down to speak, or he interviewed me on the radio, and then shortly after asked me if I'd be interested in doing this radio show here in the Seattle area. And I said yes, and I was so nervous. And we did that for about 8 years. And then he would give us all of the radio broadcasts as an MP3 file, and we made it a podcast. So all those years ago. But then what happened about 3 years ago, the host that we were hosting our podcast through decided they didn't want to be in that world anymore, so they pulled the plug on the hosting program. And when they did that, we lost all of our subscribers, and we lost all of the people that had been downloading Sound Retirement Radio for the past 8 years. And I was really kind of devastated. I thought, boy, should we even keep doing this thing? But I decided, no, we'll keep going. We'll keep moving on. And so now 3 years later, we're just about to hit 500,000 downloads even after having to recover from losing all of our subscribers from all of those years.